Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first Zoom video of September. Hope everyone had a great Labor Day. We're speaking after that. So thank you, everyone. And we have a great guest with us today. We're going to talk about percussion. That's something that's really been kind of, I don't know, a little bit by the wayside. I mean, we had a lot of stories about guitars and how well they did during the pandemic, but percussion did really well too. So we're going to talk about a lot of trends there with David Cywinski. He's the sales manager, drums and percussion at Hal Leonard. And thanks, Dave, first of all, for joining us.
Well, thanks for asking and reaching out to Hal Leonard to see what's going on with drums. We kind of touch it all from, print and digital to now selling hard products, electronic and acoustic. So hopefully we've got some helpful insights to lend as we navigate what's next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also I got to say, I love the background. That's one of the things we get to do with Zoom. We get to see everyone's offices or homes, and that's cool stuff. I got right there.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I'm at the office today, and sometimes things go discontinued, and you just want to grab one of them before they're all gone. So there's a few fancy snare drums and other things from Gretsch that we kind of hoard at the office so they don't leave us completely.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's talk about what's going on right now. A trend right now that's been brought up is the mounting. Okay, electronic mounting and hybrid drumming. I mean, we've touched upon the hybrid drumming a little in the past, but the mounting we've never really talked about. So I really wanted to get your information here. Tell us about, first of all, what mounting is, and why do drummers want to do that, and how does it improve their craft?
Yeah, I mean, being a part of Gibraltar Hardware like we are, we have a bunch of different options for people to mount electronics to their kits. And we released a few actually in 2020, and those units throughout the period of the pandemic have all done really, really well. It's clamping to a hi-hat stand to offer your multi-pad on your left-hand side. It's using a multi-pad holder on a large cymbal boom stand to actually, maybe replace a tom-tom with a piece of electronics. And the movement generally in hybrid drumming, as it's been going, has been really exciting for the drumming community because, it's developed itself more now because the sounds are better than they've ever been. Audio technology, MIDI technology, and the sounds that are coming out of various sound libraries from all the manufacturers, Roland, Yamaha, Cat, everything that we're putting out sounds amazing. And it's so easy to add it onto a drum kit now, run that into the board and use it for various things. The big thing is portability. The reason for mounting and the hybrid drumming is portability. If you've got 6 pads and you can have your cowbell, you can have a timpani roll, you can have, you can have a gong, you can have all these things that don't fit in the trunk of the car in a really compact package. That's a huge reason for it. The other thing we've seen from drummers too is actually triggering, using the MIDI technology to trigger things. You can use MIDI technology to trigger lighting. You can, a lot of us drummers, we're multifaceted creatures where, like, I run sound as I play the drums at the same time. So, guitar players screaming at you, turn my monitor up, and you're doing this while you're playing with one hand. The same thing goes with the multi-pad, where people can adjust sound, they can adjust lighting, they can adjust so many things and use it as more of a controller than just a multi-pad. So, the thirst for the mounting and the need for the actual multi-pad, I think a lot of people have had time to dive into this technology and figure it out during this period of time. We're seeing a lot of people, dig in deep and do things that they didn't have the opportunity to do before.
Yeah, great. And I wanted to also ask you about the high-end sets. Those are high-end drum sets are really selling for you guys. So that's a good sign, and and I'm sure for the retailers as well. It's definitely good if you could sell high-end items, no questions. So tell me about that. They're popular. What's going on there? Why are you seeing these sales of these high-end items?
It's, with us here at Hal, the highest level that we hit is a Gretsch renowned drum set. So we don't deal with the US, but working with DW on the Gretsch line, you know, I get a lot of information from DW and the Gretsch US factory, and we see a lot of really amazing kits coming off the line on social media. I talked to a few friends about this one because I don't touch it every day, but I can say our highest level drum sets have sold much, and we've sold a lot of add-on toms during this period of time. Somebody might buy a 5-piece configuration, but decide to add a floor tom or add an extra 8-inch tom to what they purchased. You know, the big thing is, in talking to some people about this, you know, the whole Fender custom shop element of the world has finally hit the drumming industry. And I think that's what a lot of us are looking at. I think, you know, it's threefold. It's during the pandemic, you had a lot of players come out of hibernation, as it were. You had a few, you know, guys that used to play back in the day, always wanted to buy that dream blue sparkle with the white inlay, you know, whatever it was that they saw Keith Moon play back in the day or whatever it is. They came out of nowhere. They had a little extra income. The stimulus presented itself. And more than anything, custom drum companies were getting orders that they just couldn't keep up with, you know, and that's a lot of what we were hearing. People finally want to be noticed for their drum kit. It's not just buying what's off the shelf anymore, throwing a few stands on it, some run-of-the-mill cymbals. Now it's, you know, what is the look and what is the feature? You know, a lot of professional artists out there. I think about Achilles Priester. He's got red drum heads with red cymbals and a red drum set. You know, like everything matches, and it lends itself to the aesthetic of the entire drum kit. And drummers want to be noticed a little bit more. They want to shine a little bit more. Our rack sales with Gibraltar have been off the chain, and that speaks to that. We've sold a whole bunch of racks, which says people are sitting down and they're really working on a more robust drum set that they never could have had before. Because again, during pandemic, they had time to place the orders, to find the drums, to put them together, build their dream kit in the basement. And, you know, I don't know if it's ever coming out of the basement, but that's what's lending itself to a lot of these higher end drum sales, is people wanting to be a little bit more custom, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting dichotomy because as the world went into hibernation, you kind of saw musicians come out, you know, I mean, in some way, some of these people, you know, wanted to really, you know, say, hey, I'm here and I got time and I'm gonna have some good stuff, you know, while I play. So it's really interesting that you know, how much it helped the music industry, and many areas of the music industry, not every area, but several areas. So I mean, that's tremendous to hear. I want to also ask you, we reported a lot about the new guitarists in the industry during the pandemic. There were all these people who started playing, many of them for the first time. Or many came back as weekend warriors, so to speak, or people, you know, adults that hadn't played maybe in many years or possibly ever, and they came into the market. So did you see this as well in the drumming industry? And if so, that would mean that there probably are some entry-level kit sales as well, though. They're not just the high-end sets. I would think that this is what probably these people would start with, the entry-level kits. So are you seeing that? Was there a lot of growth in both those areas, the new drummers as well as the entry-level sales?
Absolutely. It's been hard to keep track of, you know, our all-in-one drum set sales for acoustic drums. So, you know, you get the drums, you get the cymbals, it's like everything with the exception of the throne. Those sales were really hard to keep track of. The kits were flying out the door faster than we could hold them. Then, you know, I mean, we all in the industry, we all ran into inventory issues where, you know, this guy might be out, what do you got? And we were all playing the game, but it really lends to the fact that the demand for all-in-one kits was huge. And we also saw a lot of, like, you know, $500 and below electronic kit sales, kind of those, you know, parents dipping the toe in the drum water, as it were. You know, the kid wanted to play, the parent wanted them to do something while they're locked up, you know, let's get them doing something. I mean, that we saw ukulele sales were ridiculous during this period of time. You know, guitar sales were great, but electronic drum sales were amazing, like below the $500 price point, just getting people to touch a drumstick, sit on a throne and give it a go at it. You know, and like you said, you know, new drum. So that's the new drummers to the market, but I totally agree. And something we saw, you know, very vividly here at Hal Leonard, and receiving phone calls and talking to drum. We got our drum line where, you know, dudes that had played Gretsch for years and years can call and they're missing a part or whatever. We had so many people call up and say, hey, I've had this kit downstairs for 20 years. I just pulled it out. I want to put it back together. I'm missing this tom arm, or I'm missing a floor tom leg, or whatever it is. And they all came out of nowhere. So you kind of, you're right. We had these three buckets in drums. We had the, I want to give this a try player. We had the guy like me, in a way, you know, where I've practiced more in the last 2 years than I have in the last 20. You know, normally I'm gigging and I'm working and we're traveling and we're busy. But, you know, a lot of us put those kits together in the basement. I think about industry fellows of mine that, you know, now we're on these calls and they got their drum kit behind them and everybody's practicing and recording and, you know, posting on their socials. And then again, yeah, you've got that other bucket where we pulled a bunch back, you know, people that played and haven't played in a long time. One thing that I can definitely say proves this point is here at Hal Leonard on the print music side of things, our print sales on drum and percussion products were up over 20%, 2019 to 2020. We sold more books, we sold more digital, we sold a lot more things that people were looking at. We work closely with Hudson Music, and they had huge growth in their digital platform. I mean, they had some really great releases during that period of time, and that lends to it a lot. But they saw their digital platforms grow and their digital sales grow. And I mean, all of us that touch the learning aspect, you know, so the online learning, the YouTube pages, you know, people like Drum Channel and all those others out there that are lending to education, all of us saw a really nice lift during the period of time, saying we brought players in and we kept the others playing.
Great. And you brought up the electronic percussion there for a moment. I wanted to. It's been an argument for years. It's electronic versus acoustic drum sets. So I think it sounds like that. I think one would assume that if it's for children or for teenagers or you know, a young adult, let's say that you're going to be buying up an electronic set, because the parents don't want to be annoyed, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
They don't want to hear the noise. So is that what you see going on with those sales, or are you seeing a lot of also acoustic sets? I mean, are they still strong as well, or is it leaning toward just a lot of percussion sales, electronic sales? Right?
You know, in talking, we talk about, yeah, you're right, we talk about this a lot, you know, and for the past 10 years, all of us have kind of said acoustic versus electric, it's very 50-50, because you know, you've got both. You've got the guys that are enhancing their acoustic kit. You have the people that walk into the music store, and you know, the wonderful people at the music store can say, you can buy the electric kit, but it sounds like he's already been playing in the school band a little bit. Maybe we go for the acoustic one. It depends on how they steer. And then in the electronic market, you've got the more professional player that's just getting into electronics for the first time because they can't roll their drum kit into their apartment. And that's what kind of lends to that 50-50, I think, electronic to acoustic. And I can tell you internally, I mean, that's a lot of what we see. We sell a lot of acoustic kits. We sell a lot of, you know, we've seen electronic kits go to people that need to play quieter. We've seen electronic kits go to people that, again, just want to kind of dip their toe in the water. We've seen a lot of acoustic kits go to players that, you know, now don't want to take that drum kit out of the basement, but they need this for the gigs now as they're emerging. And, you know, both do create drum players. You know, they coexist quite nicely. I don't think you really meet a lot of drummers out there that are, you know, somewhat accomplished that don't have both at this point. You know, most people have their electric kit and they have their acoustic kit, or they're hybriding, or however it works. And throughout this period of time, both sold side by side, you know, very in tandem with one another. And, you know, hopefully all of that leads to people continuing to play.
Okay, great. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, now, okay. Last question is kind of the $1 million question. So I hope you took some time to think about this one, but it's a question that's really important, I think, in the future of MI. And so talk about the players that we've gained, in this case, percussionists. Now we got to try to keep them, assuming we enter a post-pandemic period. We're all, you know, we're crossing our fingers. We will be there at some point. With that assumption, it's the old NAMM, more to start, fewer to quit argument that Joel Lamont brings up a lot. So you got the more to start with drummers too. So now we have to make sure they don't quit. So what do we do to keep them involved and keep them in the market? I know it's a hard thing to ask. I mean, because there's no crystal ball here, but what do we try to do? And what are you going to try to do as a company and companies that you work with, of course, as well as a distributor, to make sure we don't lose, or I mean, I think we're going to lose some players. I mean, there's no question.
Sure.
But how do we make sure we don't lose a lot of these players and keep them involved in MI, keep the business growing and the industry going?
Yeah, it's a great question. I taught for years and years at a local music retailer, and I know how the calls come in, and we're at a good point right now because we're at the beginning of the back to school season when people are really educationally minded and things like that. But it really comes to we got to feed the old school and the new school with percussionists. We're drummers. It's a hang, man. I don't know how else to put it. If you've ever been to the PASIC show, it's just a hug fest. And it's definitely going to be quite the super spreader if we can keep it. Don't quote me on that.
No.
But if that show in and of itself it's the drumming community. We're all in this level playing field. And that's what's really cool about drummers is that we do all feed off of one another. Guitar players operate a little bit differently, and then bass players are kind of in the middle. But for us, it's a hang. And when we were young, I mean, we spent every Friday night and Saturday afternoon in the drum department talking to our friends and talking to the guy behind the counter and finding out, what's new and what's going on. And now we're talking 20, 25 years ago. But what that leads to now is the new technology, and for music retailers, it's really important that you follow the brands that you carry on social media, because that's what we're doing. That's how we're reaching out to the customers. And that's where, John Q off the street walks in and says, I want this. And if the music store doesn't know what that is, it kind of creates a problem. So I would definitely encourage music retailers that the brands that you carry in your store, if you're, strictly this brand or that brand or another brand, that's fine. But make sure you're hip to what they're doing on socials and what's new and what's trending and what the artists are talking about. And if they've got 100,000 likes and a whole bunch of flames underneath it and all that stuff, that's probably something you should take notice and pay attention to. That's kind of the new school. That's really important. I've never been a really big social media person myself, but since taking this position, it's become more and more important for me to not only follow what we're doing, but what our competitors are doing and really understand what's going in the drumming space. Then there's that old school. There's the hang, and there's nothing on this planet like a drum clinic. I hate saying it, but it is true. And here at Hal, we're clinic minded all the time. And in attending, I got to attend Summer NAMM. And in attending Summer NAMM, that's something that retailers, players, and everybody kind of brought up. They said, when are the clinics coming back? When can we get everybody in the room seeing a pro play? And that's the coolest thing about a clinic is you don't have to be a pro. You don't have to be a novice. You can just be anybody, show up at a clinic. Bands are starting to tour. So for music retailers, if they see the bands that are touring, reach out to the people that are the manufacturers of that player's gear and see if there's an opportunity to get them in the store, meet and greet, a little clinic here, a little clinic there. We all want that to come back, and there should be ways to be able to pull it off safely in time. But yeah, clinics and the drum department hang, pulling people in, reaching out via social media, offering a lesson of the week on your social media from your drum instructor and getting people to fall in love with that drum instructor so they want to come to the store. There's a lot of great ideas out there that the NAMM community can share with one another, but from the drumming community, it's just for retailers, it's reach out and find those people and bring them into the store, watch social media to see what's hip and what's trending and what people are looking for, and try to mold those two aspects into one. It's not easy, I know, and it's almost a full-time job watching everybody's social media. But if you got a few minutes to flip through online, that'll really help us come out of this and keep players going.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you. Some great stuff. And thanks. Should be it. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Dave Cywinski from Hal Leonard. Thanks for all the great information that you provided for all the drummers and percussionists out there. I want to make sure that we definitely get that mentioned and covered. We'll have more in the October issue of the Music and Sound Retailer where we cover this. We'll have many of David's comments as well as some others. So thank you. I really appreciate your help. And let's hope we can get back to some in-person events.
Yes, and it's our pleasure to be involved. Thanks for asking us. Really, really a lot of fun to talk today.
All right. Thank you very much.